Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about The Monk by Matthew Lewis. This is a book that I recently hauled on this channel. I hauled it a couple of days ago and put that haul up on YouTube, and a bunch of people in the comments were enthusing about this book in particular and saying how much they loved it. I, for one, was looking forward to reading it anyway, so I decided to basically start reading it right away, and I filmed a vlog of me doing so. I had a great time with this book. I really enjoyed it. The people in my comments were not overstating it. This is a really fun thing to read. I was worried about it before I got started with it because I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to love it. Some things about the book made me a little skeptical about whether or not I was going to personally love it, but I knew regardless that I was going to at least sort of analytically enjoy it. It's just too interesting of a piece of writing. This is a piece of Gothic literature. And yeah, I was just really excited to read it, and I really enjoyed it. So I'll play some of the clips of my vlogging experience with the book, but do be warned, I was sick during some of the reading experience of this book, so I definitely look a little worse for wear in some of these clips. So I apologize for that in advance, but as I make videos, this will rear its head again. I get sick quite often, so regardless, I'll play those clips and then we'll meet back here afterward to discuss. Good morning. How you doing? It is what is it? It's a Tuesday morning, and I just got done reading the first two chapters of The Monk. Very good. Oh my goodness, loving it. Absolutely loving it. This is independent of the fact that, of course, I'm sick, which is far from atypical for me. I'm always sick. That's something to be aware of. Since we're just getting to know each other, I guess, is that I'm just perpetually sick. So if you're ever wondering, I wonder if he's doing all right, I'm probably not. I'm probably just, dealing with a fever that just comes out of nowhere for no reason. And that happened, of course, last night. But perfect opportunity to get some reading done today, at least. And I really liked what I read of this last night. First two chapters, pretty great. Exactly what I was hoping it would be, honestly. And I love this Penguin Classic edition. I love this little. I love this painting here. The Fall of the Damned, it's called. Pretty cool. This guy doesn't look like he's having too good of a go of it. But I'm thinking she's pretty cute, honestly. She's my, what is it? What do people say? Oh, she's my hear me out. This is my hear me out. She's pretty cute. And this guy, don't even get me started on this guy. Who's he when he's at home? You know what I mean? He probably doesn't have a bad or malevolent bone in his body. People just are judging him, honestly. But anyway, I was hoping that this book was going to be passionate, and I was hoping that it was going to be youthful in a lot of ways, and it's both of those things. You can tell that it is a book that was not written with the practiced hand of a novelist who's been doing this their entire life, which sometimes, instead of being a bad thing, is a good and exciting thing, because you could sort of see the sort of, I don't know, the hand that made it more clearly, if you know what I mean. And I think that's really cool. So this is definitely, I honestly wish I had read it maybe when I was a little bit younger, because I probably would have related to the characters more. Now that I've been alive these 5 and 20 years, I get a little tired of when you read characters who are clearly attracted to each other, clearly want to be with each other, and they're for some arbitrary reason they're no, we can't, and then it's just do it. Just do it. What are you doing? You guys are acting like you can't, you don't have free will, just go for it, but anyway, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really having fun with it, and I'm gonna spend today reading as much as I can of it. Okay, I fell asleep. This is a real Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good situation, but I did read another chapter. Very good, very good. Still on a hot streak with the book. I'm enjoying it. You know what's funny is that one of the characters in the book, apparently she's very attractive, and a certain other character has the hots for her, and it's funny though because her name's Matilda, and I cannot think of anyone else but Rodol's Matilda when I hear the name Matilda. So this is not. So it's a little bit distracting. But you know what's funny is then it got me thinking about the movie Matilda, and then I Googled the movie Matilda, and I didn't realize it, but that movie was directed by Danny DeVito. So that's a little trivia piece of trivia if you didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know Danny DeVito directed the Matilda movie. That's insane. That is the weirdest piece of information I think I know now. So anyway, fun times. Okay, we got done on a bit of an adventure. I went to the library and read some of The Monk. I'm like halfway through, or more than halfway through. I'm almost done with chapter 4. Really good. So far, these chapters have like different overarching tones. Chapter 2 was like the most salacious, I feel like, the most like the most romantic of them. But then this fourth chapter has some really funny moments in it, which that's not unique to this chapter. There are some funny moments punctuated throughout the book, but I found myself very, very much laughing during some of those scenes in chapter 4, which I thought was cool. So, funny and sexy at times. It's got everything. And, if you're a fan of Corpse Bride, there's a Corpse Bride moment in this. I don't want to spoil it, but it looks like one of our characters here is getting married to, or has wedded himself unwittingly to a reanimated corpse. So there you go. That is, I don't know if that's where the idea came from, but it's cool. I like it. So we're moving along just fine with that. Okay, it's a new day. Chapter 10 of The Monk, really good, really good. I'm thoroughly enjoying the book. I really am. I mentioned before that it feels like a book that was written by somebody who, is not necessarily a practiced hand at writing novels, and I still maintain that, but I think it just adds to the charm of the book. I think that it makes the book even more interesting to read because you can really just sort of like see Matthew Lewis as this author who, he's got his interests, he's got things that he wants to write about, he's got things that he wants to say, and because he's not like an expert at doing it, you can see more clearly like the brush strokes of how he's going about doing this, and I think that's really interesting. The characters, some of them like Matilda. Whew, she might be in league with the devil or whatever, but she's kind of silly with it. I mean, you got to give her a chance. Yeah, so Matilda's great. Lorenzo, if you read the book, Lorenzo's annoying me very much so, very much so. That guy is always just like, he's always just like 14 steps behind. Should have been there when he was needed, wasn't there. Anyway, his character annoys me. But overall, I mean, the book is great, and it's really intriguing. I mean, first of all, and you should probably already know this. You probably already know this anyway. Books like these from, the older affairs of quote-unquote horror or whatever are rarely ever scary. The Monk is not scary. I've seen certain editions of it, certain digital copies of it with various covers and whatnot, and they bill it as being, this like, just at least visually try and communicate that this is some sort of scary horror novel or whatever, and it certainly isn't. I mean, the principal thing that this book is about, at least ostensibly, or at least on the surface, is love. I mean, you've got people doing love, attraction, lust, that kind of thing. You've got people doing a lot of different things throughout the novel, good things, bad things, going on various adventures, running into various challenges on the impetus of them falling in love, or at least being madly obsessed with another person. So I don't think that that is news to anybody. It certainly isn't a spoiler. It's just that's something to be aware of if you're interested in reading the book, and maybe you're under some sort of under the apprehension that the book is going to be scary or something like that. It certainly isn't. I mean, there are Gothic elements to it, and I really like those Gothic elements. There was one that I felt, at least right now, I haven't finished the book, I felt like it fell flat for me. But for the most part, you know, we've got a lot of intriguing aspects related to the Gothic aspects of it that I think are working really well, and I'm really enjoying reading them. So anyway, I don't want to yap for too long. Really liking it. It's a new day. I'm going to finish the book today, most likely. Hopefully I can do a debrief on it and publish a video about it. But I'm really looking forward to continuing to read it. Okay, I am back from an adventure. Wow, a lot of beige in this shot. Holy smokes, it's all monotone. Beige shirt, beige wall, beige posters, beige skin tone, kind of crazy. Anyway, just got done reading more of The Monk. Fantastic. This section in particular that I just read is incredible. I am almost finished with it. I've got like one chapter left. Really, really good. Really, really intense. You know, I think I didn't speak too soon when I said it wasn't scary, because it's not necessarily scary, but it is intense. The section that I just read is very, very, it kept me on the edge of my seat, I'm not going to lie. And while it isn't scary in like the horror sense, it is scary in the sense that it does have like the final boss of sexual predators in it. So you will be experiencing the intensity of how bad this guy is when you read the book, because he is a truly malevolent character. It does bring up the point, though, that this is very obviously at this point sort of anti-monastic propaganda, which I love. That is not a criticism at all. This relates to a topic that I love reading from the Reformation, which essentially revolves around the discussion of whether or not monasteries are bastions of virtue, as they were often advertised, or whether or not they were dens of depravity, as their detractors often criticized them to be. Obviously, the truth is somewhere in the middle, but books like this really are firmly in the camp that monasteries are bad and that they are filled with villains and whatnot. That being said, though, there are certainly characters in the book who are associated with the monastery that are not bad people at all. But I'm absolutely positive that this book is in the tradition of people who are using their literary sensibilities to criticize monasticism, which again is something I really enjoy. That is not a problem that I have with this at all. Somebody in the comments of one of my other videos was talking about how that was grating on them for this book, but for me, I absolutely love it. I can understand why you wouldn't, because it does make the book more one-dimensional. You know, when a book starts to take on the sort of political, polemical tone like that, then, you know, you can start seeing through the decisions that certain characters make. And I do have to say that there is one moment of, I guess I could call it sexual conservatism, that I really, really, really didn't like. But other than that, it is gripping. I was gripped by it. I absolutely loved it, and I do think that some of the characters are really good. I think mostly the situations I think are really, really interesting. I do think the Gothic elements work in it really well. I think that there's a lot of tension, and I think that things fit together very nicely. There's different narratives that we're switching between, and then they're coinciding here at the end. And overall, I'm just having a fantastic reading experience with it. So I do have to say good things overall about the book, because I really am enjoying it. And it's making me want to read The Nun by Diderot, because, well, there's something quaint about reading The Monk and then following that up with The Nun. But that would be another example of sort of a literary stab at monasticism that takes on a similar sort of strategy. But anyway, that's a video for another day, I guess. I'm going to finish this up, and I will report back. Okay, so I just finished The Monk. I'm going to make a video about it pretty soon, but oh my goodness. There's a twist at the end that I did not see coming. Oh my gosh. What a twist. That was crazy. I mean, the book is it's so entertaining. You can't, there are criticisms to make, but it is so entertaining from front to back. It makes some crazy, and it's so dramatic. Like, it is so dramatic, and it does not necessarily like sell that drama very well, but it like nevertheless, it makes it so entertaining to read with just like the utter depravity of some of the situations and characters in this book. It's like totally ludicrous, but like again, like so entertaining to read. Gosh, that was so much fun. I definitely understand why people really like this book, and I'm so glad that I did too, because I really thought that this book might be one of those books that I just like sort of like academically like appreciate but don't really love. But no, genuinely, like I can't wait to read this again. That was so much fun, especially considering this twist at the end, but also just throughout, there were so many things that I just didn't expect to happen. Some things that were very predictable, I think. Some things that I was able to guess from a mile away, but other things that I just, nope, had no idea that was coming. No idea. Just jaw on the floor. Really, really, more than just this twist at the end, there's been a lot of moments that I just didn't expect coming. So, yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. So, I usually like to read the introductions after I finish the book. So this Penguin has an introduction attached to it, so I'm gonna give that a read, and then I'll make my video about it pretty soon. Okay, so that was my reaction to The Monk. As you can tell, I really enjoyed it. I just thought it was fascinating and interesting, and well, I don't want to stick to just generalities. I would say the most important thing is that it's entertaining, and that's something that I really, really appreciated from the book. Like, I can't really see anyone not finding this interesting from just the standpoint of how crazy it gets. It is a really just like balls to the wall experience. There's a lot of the gothic elements are totally over the top, ridiculous. All of the romantic elements are totally over the top, ridiculous. But never in a way that I was rolling my eyes at it. I personally found all of those aspects to be perfectly balanced with some actually like quite serious and quite sometimes disturbing aspects of the book as well, because I'm not going to lie, there were moments when the stakes were pretty high for me. I was invested in the plot, I was invested in the characters, and when they were in peril, when they were in danger, I was definitely worried for them. So I don't like to see good people suffer, and there is some of that in spades in this book, to be frank. That made up the sections that I was on the edge of my seat for, which I'm not going to lie were definitely, especially later in the book, there were some sections that I was at the edge of my seat on, and so I really, really enjoyed those. Of course, the book is not without criticism. I've mentioned at this point a couple of times, so I'll keep it short, but Matthew Lewis is not a master author, I don't think, and there are a couple of drawbacks, but again, I won't press this point too much, I personally really enjoyed seeing some of the amateur qualities of the book. Some of the clunkiness of it can be readily excused, I think. For example, there's a sort of narrative that spans 2 very long chapters in here that's just sort of roughly inserted, doesn't quite flow with the rest of the book, is a little bit, it's just a little bit awkwardly placed. In addition to that, there's a lot of poetry in here that I don't think quite works, or I don't think quite justifies itself, particularly one poem that I think is just completely unnecessary and very confusing as to why it's in there. Again, not a major drawback, but just something to consider. And then 2 things related to this Penguin edition. The first is that I mentioned this at the end of or in the last clip that I just filmed, but typically I like to read introductions at the end of books because I don't like the way that introductions read at the beginning of books, and this introduction is no different. I think the introduction here is nice. I think it's worth reading, but I also think it's worth reading after you've read the book, because at the very least, the references to the characters in it will make more sense if you actually know who who's being talked about or who's being referenced. And I'll also say that the subtitle of The Monk is a romance, and that is made reference to early on one of the first pages of the book. Let me see if I can flip to it quickly. Yes, right here. I don't know if you can see that, but it does say that this is a romance. But I think that's worth mentioning. It's not here on the cover, but like I talked about recently with Edmund Goss's Father and Son, which had the subtitle a tale or a study of two temperaments. A romance, I think, is a great subtitle for this book and worth pointing out, because the fact of the matter is that as is also pointed out in the introduction here, all of the characters are in some way enraptured with someone else, totally in love with them, filled with lust and desire for someone. Sometimes that is a perverted thing, sometimes it's a beautiful, divine experience, whatever. But that forms the overwhelming majority of the motivations that the characters make, and the decision, the motivations that the characters have and the decisions that they make are all the result of passion in some sense. And so that subtitle is very appropriate. Of course, there is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek aspect to it as well, because this does not necessarily abide by most of, or all of, the rules of a romance, and yet it does conclude with the expectations of the romance genre, I would say. Except for one aspect that I found quite distasteful, frankly, that I won't spoil, but it is related to one of the characters here and one of her treatments at the end of the book that I think was certainly didn't age well, just genuinely. I just don't think that it aged well. Regardless of that aspect of the book, I do think it is perfectly balanced for, modern day readers' sensibilities. I was never bored, at least. I can't imagine being bored reading this, frankly. It's just too crazy and too off the wall. It's too weird, but it's also very passionately written, which I think is communicated very well. So I think I'm wrapping up my thoughts here. I'm going to recommend it simply on the basis of the entertainment value, but I do have to say as a quick note, as I've made no secret of on this channel, I am a fan of the Reformation, and if you're interested in the Reformation at all, I think this book is also worth reading from an analytical standpoint, or at least some kind of academic standpoint as well, because it does, and I think I mentioned this in my last clip, or a couple clips ago, whatever, it does grapple with the a sort of perennially interesting conversation, which is the sort of position and the role that monasteries have played in the West. According to Catholic detractors, anti-papist groups, movements, and whatnot, they were dens of depravity, places for perverts and uneducated morons, basically, to sort of hide out it was basically a safe haven for them. But then there was also the flip side of that, the sort of Catholic propagandistic voice, which said that, or promoted the idea that monasteries were bastions of virtue and the pinnacle of sort of self-sacrifice and piety and whatnot. And of course, as these things usually develop, both are in a sense kind of true. I'd love to know more, and I will not stop reading about this subject because I find it so interesting. And if you find it interesting, not only do I recommend The Nun, but this was referenced in a pretty interesting conversation. I don't really find these conversations that interesting, these debates around religion and whatnot, that interesting, but there was a really good one between A.C. Grayling and Tom Holland, not the actor Tom Holland, the historian Tom Holland, and they brought up in their debate this, again, perennially interesting subject. And Tom Holland was of the opinion that these monasteries were bastions of learning. We have so much of our manuscripts, so much of our knowledge of the ancient worlds, because they were preserved in these Catholic monasteries. And then you had A.C. Grayling's perspective, which was much more of the, critical perspective, which is that they were places where learning was actually discouraged, and monkish attitudes preserved a lot of negative things that would have been better to totally leave behind and not substantiate with the sort of zealotry and dogmatism of religion. But anyway, that's a topic for a different video. Regardless, I just wanted to say that that is something that added to my enjoyment of the book. And if you find that discussion interesting, you should certainly check this out just on the merits of that. And I also mentioned that I really wanted to read The Nun. Now that I've read The Monk, it just brought to mind that, you know, Diderot was grappling with the same sort of criticism of monasticism too. And I don't know. I just think it's really interesting. I think it's really fun. I think it's really fun. And I don't have a dog in the fight. You know, I'm totally willing. Of course, the truth is somewhere in the middle. It's boring to say, but you know, the fact of the matter is that monasteries did preserve a lot of learning, and they did preserve a lot of manuscripts, and that is the truth. But at the same time, the criticisms against them did not come from nowhere. They developed from very real instances, and instances that get dramatized in books like this, or at least you know, parodied or put on a sort of literary level in books like this. But anyway, for a lot of reasons, I definitely recommend it. It's entertaining. I think the characters are great. I think that the story is extremely interesting. It's a little crazy at times, but in a very fun way. I think that the conversations you can have about this book are also very interesting, whether you're talking about monasticism, whether you're talking about the role of women in this book, I think is also just a fascinating conversation to have. Really, overall, I had a fantastic reading experience with it. So I could go on, but I'll cut myself off there. Thank you all for watching, and that'll be it for me today.
Okay, well, I need to go out and source myself some food, so I'm going to do that. I'm also going to go to my half-price books, because, you know, that might make me feel better. And believe it or not, you're going to think I'm lying, but I'm not. I just had a dream while I was sleeping of Parker's Back, which is a short story by Flannery O'Connor. And I hadn't thought of that short story in years, and then I just had this very vivid dream about it, and now I really want to reread it. And I don't have a collection of her collected short stories anymore, which is a tragedy. And what's even worse is that I saw the collection, you know, the famous one with the peacock on it, in my local used bookstore at some point in the past, and I didn't get it for a reason that escapes any logic or justification right now. But I'm going to go back and see what they have there. I can't remember if it's just in that complete collection of short stories, or if it's in everything that Rises Must Converge, or Like a Good Man Is Hard to Find, or something else. That one of her other, you know, collections of short stories. We'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna try and do that now.
Just fine with that, and I am absolutely enjoying it so far. Then, of course, I had to go to half-price books. I wanted to score myself a copy of that edition of Flannery O'Connor's collected short stories, so that I could read Parker's Back again and just enjoy that volume. But of course, they didn't have it because, and this is a great opportunity to press this point if you're a used book shopper. If you find something like Flannery O'Connor's collected short stories, and for some reason you don't buy it, you will be lost forever. You will incur the gods' wrath, and they will never let you sleep. You will never find that edition again. And you will just wander the earth wondering why you never picked that up. So, of course, they didn't have that edition, but I got two other things that I'm kind of happy about, I thought they were great finds. This first is the Complete Tales of Edgar Allan Poe. Look at that cover. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. But this is an old Barnes & Noble hardcover, which if you've been watching me for a while, you know I love. So this is wonderful to have. Of all of and there's been 7 billion complete tales and poems of Edgar Allan Poe. This is, I think, mine. This is the one I want. This is an edition that I'm going to hold on to for sure. So I was very happy to find that. And you know, it's not necessarily the best. I mean, there was a bunch on the shelf of collected just next to this one. There was a bunch of other options, but this is the one for me. This is the one for me for sure. So I was happy to find that. And then I also got The Persian Boy by Mary Renault. Her great, supposedly great, can't wait to read it novel of Alexander the Great. So that's awesome. I was very happy to find this, and it's part of a quartet. I think there are 4 volumes in this series. This is, I think, the first one. I hope it's the first one. I think you can just jump in with the Persian Boy, though, regardless. So I will be doing that at some point. And they had more of the volumes there, but I didn't know what order they were in, and I didn't want to splash out on getting 4 volumes of that when I just want to dip my toe in and read the Persian Boy first. So anyway, feeling a little bit better, and I will continue to read The Monk and give you updates.